Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name's Ivana. If you are new here, if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is Monday, August the 2nd. And believe it or not, there are schools that are starting back today. It is back to school. And today I am joined by one of our Alabama Education Lab reporters, Rebecca. And Rebecca is outside of Phillips Academy in downtown Birmingham. This is a Birmingham City school. And they started back today. Rebecca has been there since about 7 this morning and is kind of taking it in. The kids getting back. They are all wearing masks. They are required to wear masks here at this school and throughout the district. And so Rebecca has just been kind of seeing how it's going there. So I've muted her for just a second because we know that it's loud there. So I'm going to unmute you in a minute, Rebecca. But as you can see, she is outside of Phillips Academy. And again, the kids have gone on lunch. So she kind of got to sneak away for a few minutes and give us an idea of what's happening. So Rebecca, tell us what you have seen this morning. I know that you tweeted some video. It's kind of a party atmosphere this morning.
Yeah, no, they've been really making the most of this morning. So Birmingham was one of the first districts to go back. And so they had parent volunteers, helping with traffic. And then we had the principal out there giving everyone fist bumps, There were not too many people struggling with their masks or anything like that, which you would imagine maybe with kids that might be an issue, but really not. Music, there was a little pep squad out here. The music teacher was actually on her keyboard and singing karaoke. So, I mean, really just a lively atmosphere. I think there is a mix of excitedness and nervousness among teachers, students, and parents. I talked to some parents who had first graders who missed out on kindergarten in person, and that, a lot of them were ready to have their kids back in the classroom. Talked to some parents who are very grateful for the city to actually have a mask mandate. Parents of kids who aren't eligible to get the vaccine yet, who are too young. So really just a mix of a lot of things today, but I think the school is doing its best to try to get everybody excited.
Now, I know that you mentioned again, you saw these kids getting to school wearing masks. I'm saying kids because Phillips Academy is a younger grade school, starts here at about kindergarten and goes up. So it's those younger grades. And I guess there maybe are a few, maybe eighth graders who are exempt, but most of the kids and most of the students here at Phillips are not eligible to get those COVID vaccines because they are under the age of 12. So let's keep that in mind. I've got somebody saying, can kids wear masks to schools? And yes, Ed, actually Birmingham City Schools, the district has made masking mandatory for the students and the faculty. So Rebecca, I know you said that the kids, they were wearing them and didn't seem to have any problems walking in. Did you have a chance to talk to any parents who were doing drop off for their kids and see how they felt about the mask ordinance?
Yeah, so I talked to a parent, Roderick Lowe. He's got two younger daughters, a fourth grader and a second grader. And so they're both not eligible to get the vaccine. He was fully vaccinated and works at multiple jobs around a lot of people. And, he was nervous about the first day of school, but he was just glad that they were wearing masks. He, said he couldn't really imagine it any other way. And, he's scared of bringing stuff home, even though he's vaccinated. And now he's, more kind of concerned about them. But having that mask is a safeguard for that. So that was kind of his take. He was sort of like on the ropes about coming back to school. But that was the one thing that assured him that it would be okay. So.
Well, and two, I'll remind anybody watching today, we did have a pretty extensive talk with a pediatrician on Friday. He answered a lot of questions that many of our parents had about their kids going back to school, wearing masks in school, whether they should or shouldn't, kids and preteens getting vaccinated, et cetera. So we'll link that here in the comments so you can go back and find that video and find that article and get your questions there answered. But Rebecca, going back to today and the start of school, we know Birmingham started today. August 2nd. It feels so early for a lot of us, but a lot of schools are going back this week and next week. Now, I know, again, you're on site, you're at Phillips, you don't have your computer and all your notes in front of you, but there's not really a whole lot of school districts that have enacted mask requirements for the coming year so far.
Right. Not that we're aware of. We just added a few to our list. Auburn, I think, is among them. But no, and I'm not too sure about Jefferson County as well. But I do know that Birmingham is one of the main ones that is requiring masks. Even
Now,
though the health department has, strongly suggested that and advised that universal mask wearing. But
Now, I know that you are planning to sit down with some people who work at Phillips, maybe a teacher, principal later on today. You haven't gotten there yet. Again, it's only 11 here. I know the kids are just getting to lunch, but have you gotten a chance, even in passing, to speak with the principal or any teachers at Phillips? And what did they say about their thoughts on getting back to school?
Yeah. I talked to the music teacher actually, who was singing this morning, and she said that the pandemic has actually, allowed her a chance to kind of rethink some of the ways that she engages students. And so, she pointed to her like portable mic and all these things, and she's decked out in these costumes and stuff. And, that was sort of a result of being, virtual and missing her students so much and trying to think of ways to like start the school year with a bang and get people really engaged. I did talk with the principal for a little bit. He's obviously very excited to be back. I'm going to talk with him a little bit more about the past year and how that went later on. And then this morning, I've been sitting in on a classroom, a second grade classroom. And, a lot of the students are pretty quiet. A lot of the, even some of the teachers are a little bit nervous. Was in a classroom with a veteran, 31-year career teacher who just sort of felt, out of her element. And she's like, this is hard. And when I come back, they're going to have this first day jitters assignment or they're having some first aid jitter punch, and some of the kids have been talking about how they're nervous and stuff. So I'll be glad to see that. But so it's really just a mix of nervousness, excitedness, and kind of learning from the last year and making needed changes, and then also just kind of like you're teaching virtually for a year, and now it's like the first day again. So what do you do? That general nervousness.
You mentioned something a few minutes ago that I thought was really interesting. And you said there are first graders who didn't come to school for kindergarten at all. So this is, even though maybe they're in first grade and they did complete kindergarten, this is their first year actually in a school. So I'm sure that there are some of those jitters because you kind of can get those out a little bit more in kindergarten. And then when you go into first grade, people expect those students to be a little bit more acclimated to being in school 5 days a week. And then you're not acclimated to being in school 5 days a week. So that's interesting. And I have a comment here from Ian, and he talks about how he says he's glad that kids need to be safe, need to be in school. And he says the computer is no substitute for this, meaning in-person learning, I believe. And, Rebecca, I'm sure you've heard a lot of that same sentiment of parents saying, look, my kids need to be in school. The computer, it's fine, but we're not getting where we need to be with virtual learning.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, some of the parents I talked to were very relieved to be back in school. There was no question about that. You talk to the kids and they're like, I'm nervous, or I'm excited. And the parents, I'm happy, so there was that, of course. I think for some parents also, that added an extra job of kind of being a teacher. So I think that definitely added a lot of stress. Some parents were supplementing what their kids were learning through virtual school to make sure that they didn't lag behind. That was definitely the case with the gentleman that I talked to earlier. So yeah, definitely.
Somebody had asked you again where this is. I believe it was OV. OV, this is Phillips Academy. It is a Birmingham City school. It is located in downtown Birmingham, and they start at kindergarten. Again, like we were saying, there are kids who have never been in school 5 days a week because last year they were doing this virtually. So he says that he is in Jefferson County. They don't start until the 10th. I have Grace saying that Hoover doesn't start also until the 10th. So it looks like, Rebecca, we're going to be following this back to school kind of period for the next week or so. So tell us to what you have. I know that the Education Lab is planning to cover the Alabama Department of Public Health kind of toolkit they're releasing. We'll do more on that this week. And tell us what we can expect from the Education Lab as school gets back in session.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just be keeping an eye on all of these new guidances. I'm sure counties will be kind of popping up new guidances as the CDC is expected to make a decision tomorrow about universal mask wearing. So, we're going to be keeping an eye on that and looking at every single county. So, and Birmingham was the first. So we have districts going back as late as, the end of August. So that'll be that first day of school for the next couple of weeks. So.
Right. Now, too, let me remind everybody, you can find all these Education Lab stories that we've linked it here in the comments. You can find it, though, at AL.com/education lab. Again, that's AL.com/education lab. Also, again, we will leave that video here linked where we talked to that pediatrician on Friday. He answered a lot of the questions revolving vaccines and kids in school and masking in school as well. If you have vaccine questions, you can always email them to vaccines, plural, VACCINES @AL.com. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming, sneaking out a little bit from the school to give us an update there at Phillips Academy, downtown Birmingham. We appreciate it. And everybody watching, thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow.